Right now, we are living in a world where it feels like everywhere you look there's cause for anxiety and worry. Or maybe you're the kind of person who tends to get caught in the trap of overthinking and worrying too much. It can feel like the stress never really switches off, and your mind is constantly carrying something heavy. But I'm here to tell you that there is a way to calm your mind, to leave some of that worry behind. And in this video I will go through some simple steps that can help you find that peace, while at the same time sharing a few glimpses of my life here in the Finnish countryside. I've had the tendency to worry myself ever since I was a child. I even remember thinking when I was a child that if I managed to think about a certain topic of potential worry, it wouldn't happen at all. Like I could prevent a bad thing from happening if I just thought about it before. And of course that's completely misguided. It doesn't work like that. But that's just an example of how being someone who tends to worry can have roots deep in your childhood already. I was always the one to stay up late worrying about the things that I had to do the next day at work, or feeling things that happened in the world deeply, feeling anxiety about things that I couldn't even impact in any way. Things started changing for me when I had a bad burnout some years ago. I was unable to work, I was on sick leave for a long time. I was basically not able to function in this world anymore. And I started realizing with some help that my worrying was one of the reasons why I was in such a bad state. And I understood that it was a severe threat to my well-being. So I started learning new ways of thinking, mental techniques that could help me with worrying. And in this video you will see some of them. This is my one unique life. Is worrying really how I want to spend it? When having worries, I often used to think that it would get easier when this one particular situation was over. But then there came new worries, new difficult situations, new challenges. And I started realizing that the world would never be ready. There would never be a situation where everything would be fixed. When one cause for worry was resolved, there would always be another one. Life is just continuation of individual moments. And I realized this when thinking about my kids. When your kids are small, life feels slow. It feels like you have time and that you can always change things later. But now that my kids are 10 and 13, I'm starting to realize that it was fast after all. There's not an infinite amount of time in my life anymore. This is the life that I'm living. This is when I can make a change in my thinking. So I don't want to be the person who is always worried, who is wasting my life to those thoughts. I want to learn how to take it easy, how to relax, how to find peace. Not just as an individual, but also as a mom. That's something important to me as well. So what is really important about this is that you have the choice. There's always something to worry about, but you can make the decision to not give it any more power than it needs to have. I am not my thoughts. So now you might be thinking that life really is challenging. Things are happening that should cause worry. And I'm not negating that at all. All I'm saying is that you have the power to distance yourself from those thoughts. And the word distancing is the key here. It's not about fighting against your thoughts. It's about taking a step back. It might feel like thoughts just come automatically to you, and maybe they do because you have spent maybe most of your life in that cycle of worry. That's how your brain has learned to function. But you have the power to change that. You can decide whether you want to identify with those thoughts or whether you want to just observe them from a distance. So here are some practical tips on how to do that. First of all, you might want to set a time in a day when you let your worries freely come to you. And on other times you tell your brain that thank you for noticing that, but I won't be thinking about that until that specific time that you set. For example, you might want to make some time for your worries in the evening before going to bed so that you don't need to stay awake the whole night thinking about them. Maybe journaling helps, maybe just sitting with those thoughts helps. But the idea here is that you decide when is a good time to think about them, to take them seriously. And on other times you just decide to focus on something else, like what you're doing in the moment. Otherwise you might end up overthinking, like if you always allow for every thought to have your attention. Those of us who have the tendency to overthink know that it's not about the amount of thinking that will solve your problems. If it was about the amount of thinking, we wouldn't have any problems at all. It's just that our mind is used to going in circles, spinning around certain subjects, and it's like a broken record. It's really difficult to stop that. I think this is one of the ways that can help, setting certain office hours for your worries, and on other times coming back to the present moment, not negating your thoughts, not chasing them or trying to fight against them, but just telling yourself that now is not a good time, we will come back to this later today. And I think it's important to have this daily moment for it, because otherwise it wouldn't be often enough. But if you do it daily, your brain starts to feel safe knowing that there will be a time and place for those worries. And other times you can relax. Of course, you need to remember that learning this takes time. It's not something that happens in a few days or even a few weeks. But if you just keep doing it, it will help. Other ways to step back from your thoughts might be thinking about your life as a film. What if these worries were a film, a movie? What if it was happening to someone else, the things that you're worried about? Or what if it was something that happens to a friend? This is particularly powerful if it's something that's worrying you personally. It's also important to remember that thoughts and feelings are connected. And when your mind is racing, you might realize that you have corresponding feelings in your body. What I often do is taking a step back from those thoughts and letting all the feelings flow through my body. And often I feel those feelings as physical sensations. It might feel like there's something black going on in my chest, or maybe it's something sharp. I don't know if everybody feels their feelings like this. Maybe it depends on the type of personality you have. But this is a technique that has helped me a lot when it comes to being okay with my feelings, letting them flow freely and not getting stuck with them. One way of taking some distance from the current events, our world, is reading about history or something that's really far away from our current situation. History is one thing that helps a lot because you get some perspective. You start to understand that things weren't so easy before either. Or sometimes I read about science, those popularized science books about things that aren't meant for scientists but for regular people. It's almost as if I was looking at the world through a different lens. For example, if I'm reading about cosmology, that's something that I don't know almost anything about. That's one way of distancing my thoughts from the world around me. Action without panic. For someone who's highly sensitive like me, it might be best to leave activism to others. I'm saying this as someone who's tried to do their share, going to marches, trying to fight for causes that I believe in, but realizing that it's just not good for my mental health or my general well-being. And I do think that it's completely okay to just take a step back and primarily focus on your own well-being, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to function at all. But luckily there are softer ways to take a stance, have an impact, voice your opinions. First of all, we all make small everyday choices that matter. Those are some small things that can really make a difference. And they can make you feel better if you make choices that feel like are aligned with your values. But another thing is that you can protest in ways that feel like the right fit for you. For example, recently in the knitting community, I have seen how people have started to make this particular hat that has a reference to history and is a form of protest nowadays. If you're interested, I will link some more info in the description box. I also started following a group of Buddhist monks who did a work for peace in the United States. And I followed their posts daily on Facebook because that gave me hope. Seeing what they were doing, seeing their journey made me feel calm. And I think that was a perfect example of how you can make a difference in a calm, soft, loving way. What they did felt like something that brought people together regardless of their religion, background, ethnicity, even country of origin. And I feel like taking action in this calm, silent, subtle way is something that really speaks to me. So if you're someone who tends to worry like me, and if you have found ways on how to let go of some of those worries, how to learn new techniques, new ways of thinking, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you for spending this time with me today. And just as a reminder, peace is something that you can choose yourself. It's something that you can return to anytime. It's not necessarily only about something that's happening outside of you. Thank you for watching. Remember to take care of yourself. See you in the next video. Bye.